In the past, our other albums have been done pretty much straight after coming off a tour and stuff. With this one, we just decided to pretty much let it take its course naturally and not really worry about release dates and stuff. We weren't that concerned. I think, you know, it was basically time to give certainly Britain a bit of a rest.
You know, it wasn't a case of like, let's get off the treadmill and do something for ourselves for a change. You know, the actual record took 3 months to record. You know, it wasn't like we were recording for 18 months. We desperately needed a break, though, because we've been working constantly for 5 years. We hadn't had a break at all, you know. So it wasn't like we were sitting on our backsides. We were, you know, we were working, you know. We had, like, at one point, we had 22 songs, like, May last year. Then we were going into pre-production and rehearsing with the band, you know. We just wanted to give it a little bit more time to develop, you know, as opposed to just going in the studio, thrash it out, put the record out, thank you very much, go on the road. You know, it's very gratuitous kind of thing.
On it, and I think it took, like we said before, we took more time in arranging it, writing it, working out the parts, lots of little fiddly bits going on, you know, people don't hear it at first, but it's a lot of stuff going on. I think it's a little bit more of a return to the way we naturally used to record. In, like, for example, it's sort of a little bit, basically Sonic Temple's a mixture of the Love album and Electric album. They're both aspects of the cult. It's pretty obvious what aspects they are if you take one listen to the records. We tried to combine them both. We've explored both ways, you know. As usual with the band, it's, you know, we did it in public. We did it on vinyl, you know, with that kind of bit. We just do it. We do things. We're not a very calculated band. We don't disappear for too long, you know. We don't go off and, you know, go up a mountain and work out the meaning of life. We just get on with it. So it's basically a reflection of two sides of the band. A lot better musicians.
Again, it's such an extreme. A lot of things went down in 1987. It was our first major world tour. So we went in there bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, never done a world tour before. We didn't even know we were going to do a world tour. We didn't know how to pace ourselves. There were incidents that occurred, arrests, you know, riots at some concerts, mainly centred around me, you know.
Trashing of gear.
The Australian experience, I mean, we did Australia at the end of the year before we came back to Britain, and that was quite well documented. They thought we were like the new Sex Pistols when we got there. We were just so drained and burnt, we didn't care what people thought about us. We were just like obnoxious people. We'd had enough, basically, you know. Getting on stage was a hell of a job to do, you know. And also we were playing bars in Australia, and we're like really kind of very heavy environments. Everybody in there was drunk. They were very dingy lit places, damp places. We just come off the back of them. The last place we hit before we went to Australia was like Hawaii. Played the Sheraton Hotel National Ballroom in front of like 7,000 screaming kids. And then we got to Australia, and it was more like going to, you know, playing working men's clubs. It started out from 6 years ago, so it was a major culture shock, you know. And also inside of the group, we had a problem with the drummer in the sense that we felt we were carrying him as we were growing, developing as you know, players. He was basically more interested in the lifestyle than developing his art. You know, and the sad thing is he's a beautiful guy, you know, and we were great friends, and you know, there's still a friendship there. But we basically had to part company. You know, the most important thing of the cult is the songs, and for those to survive, we have to have the right personnel, you know. And also we lost our management as well. Mismanagement in America. That caused a lot of problems. You know, at one point we were touring, you know, working very, very hard, and the record wasn't even out in shops and stuff like that. So, you know, people were going, this is incredible, I want to buy it, and they couldn't buy it, you know. And that was a real, that was like 5,000 people in Vancouver. The security guys were basically hired hands from the local university, who were like the jocks, you know, sort of all the athletes and the American football players, basically with little suits on, little yellow shirts on to signify the security guys, you know. And they basically overreacted to the situation. You know, our audience are very vociferous. They really express the fact they're having a good time. They don't just sit there and go, yes, you know, in between each song. And they overreacted, you know, and we were on form that evening as well, and we were cranking out the sounds. And at one point, Seen things like some young girl got a shirt ripped off, got her hair pulled by a security guy, another guy got punched in the face. This went on all night, and I was just getting really annoyed by it. And eventually, like, you know, maybe 200 or 300 kids got up on stage. The barriers came down, everything was crashed. I ended up getting knocked on the floor. I was lying on my back, people trampling over me. The band left the stage, things were getting smashed to smithereens. Security guys come running across the stage, grabbed hold of this kid, started beating him around the head. I thought, you know, to hell with this. I ran over, tried to get them off this guy, pushed the security guy out of the way. He went flying off the stage. Next thing I knew, he was being pulled out by my guy. Next thing I know, I'm in the dressing room. 5 minutes later, off to jail. You know, 10 hours in jail. Victim of circumstance. I'm a victim of circumstance. That's it, you see.
We also heard that around about that time that you were drinking a lot and partying a lot.
I mean, what do you do on the road? It's like it's for anybody. It's very hard. It's an experience. It's very hard to explain to anyone. It's like trying to explain an orgasm. You know, it's trying to explain the taste of raspberry jam. You really have to experience it to totally understand the psyche, what goes on when you're on the road. You basically live for 2 hours every night. You know, people go like, well, why don't you go and have a nice meal and walk around the art galleries or something like that, or shop or something, and it's like a real drag. You know, especially when you're in the Midwest of the United States, it's very, I don't know, it's very conservative. You know, it's very grey, very uncosmopolitan there. So you spend your time like walking around these massive shopping malls a lot of the time, just like these bland sort of, I don't know, these...
It's like the Arndale Centre in Manchester without a chip shop,
you know, just,
like 20,000 times over.
Sometimes you just can't handle it, you know, it's really that simple. You know, I mean, different people have different ways of dealing with it.
Yourselves for that?
I think the record is probably the central thing for us. Now that we've experienced it, we're veterans, you know, we know how to do things in moderation, you know. There's it demands so much physically to perform. You know, you've got to be in a certain physical condition to do that. So it's just like taking stock, you know, taking it easy. When you first start out in a group, it's like really exciting. When you get your first bit of success, and all of a sudden you're like invited to parties, you're invited to openings, you know, your face is constantly on the cover of magazines, stuff like that. It's really like, you know, it's like bang, wow. You get pretty excited by that, and you go out and you taste everything, you do everything, then you get a bit overfaced and you think, I feel a little bit sick now, you know. And then when you get over that stage, you calm down a little bit more, you know. Doesn't mean the performance is still as intense and the records are still as intense, it's just that you know how to get through some of the grey areas a little bit better. You know, you can see the warning lights going off and you just know, like, I think you know, there's a blatant rock element to what we do. You know, that was one of the reasons for doing that record. We just wanted to consolidate that in the public eye. We said, look, none more of this, like, positive punk tags, thank you very much. This is what we're about, you know. So that we got a large crossover from, like, rock audience, like, serious rockers, yeah. And then, you know, and also having chart success, you get a lot of girls coming to the show, and then you get a lot of, like, alternative people coming to the show, too. You know, it's right across the board. But I think the main bulk of our audience is like rock fans, you know, people who would go out and buy, you know, people who go and see like Guns N' Roses, people who go see Metallica, people who've got like Led Zeppelin records, you know. It's a younger generation. I think all the kids that were growing up during the 80s, you know, with basically pop music, who didn't experience punk rock. You know, I was just picking up 16, 17-year-old kids who are into rock music, picking us up now, and we're the first thing in their lives, so that there's a whole new wave, a whole new generation coming through. And you can see the seeds that have been planted a little while ago are now sprouting, and there's just like so many things coming out. I mean, even in Britain, there's a return to guitar, basic music. It's even relevant in things like, what's that band, Texas? And they're playing like slide Rycuda style guitar. They're from Scotland, they're called Texas. It's kind of bizarre, but you know, again, there's a certain rock influence in there, you know. You just rock with short hair as opposed to long hair.
Yeah, it's just like, it just seems in Britain, like the more and more we get this kind of disco wallpaper music that's in the charts, from what I'm told, it's like, there's always going to be another reaction to it, and it's just people just turning to more traditional elements musically. You know, there's nothing magical about slide guitar, it's been around an awfully long time. It's just that somebody's in the, you know, context now doing it. You know, 3-4 years ago it seemed that every band wanted to be kind of a funk band. You know, now everybody's kind of got this, like, incessant 120 BPM you know, disco beat thing, you know, whatever the song is, as long as it's got that underneath it. And that seems to be a trend. I mean, I'm just, you know, I've been away from the country for a year and a half. It seems like that, but there's a balance, and there's underneath it, there's loads of people going, well, I just can't be dealing with that. And, like, they just go back and search and try and find something that they feel comfortable with. And they just, you know, go into traditional instruments, you know, acoustic guitars and basic forms of music that have endured, that aren't such like a fashion statement. And, you know, it's manipulated and turned into something, but it's just, you know, stuff that's been around a while. You know, it's not that surprising, to be honest. You know, when you, in a lot of people, I suppose it's like in the search for going forward, occasionally you stop and look what's your history, you know, what's gone beyond, and if you understand that a little better, maybe it gives you a bit more direction. Band, all the songs are always written on guitar, and I'm sure they will be. I'm not particularly interested in exploring the wonderful world of keyboards or something, you know. It's a guitar-orientated rock band, they're called, you know, we dig the blues, and that's what we feel comfortable doing.